after the excitement of the build-up to the Zurich 24-hour race, we kind of go back to normal, if anything is ever normal, on the Nordschleife. 148 entrants. We've had 145 cars out in qualifying, mostly made up of showroom production entrants, actually, but showroom production entries and single make cups, actually. But the SP classes are still making up a good third of what we will see racing for 4 hours. Just a point of order to start with. In 2009, the 51st running of this event, Marcel Tiemann and Mark Lead plonked a 911 GT3 RSR on pole position at 8:24.168 seconds. Today, only one car underneath the 8 minutes, but it was underneath. It was a 57, and that was the 59 car. So just in a relatively short space of time, the Manthey Racing team, not nearly half a minute off the lap here. A bit of background, Johnny, on the event. The ACAS is Automobile Club Altkreis Schwelm. It's a local affiliate in the Eifel of the ADAC. Formed in 1925 and after a brief interruption was reinstated in 1949. It's a big weekend for the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Official opening was on the 19th of June 1927. The Eifelrennen was the first race, and so we are in a bit of a celebratory mood. There was full celebrations whilst we were at Le Mans for that anniversary, and the ring reopened on the 17th of August 1947, another year with a 7 in it, after the hostilities of World War II, a motorcycle race on the Südschleife. And it would be remiss if I didn't mention, as we are talking about the Nürburgring and the Nordschleife, Brendan Curley, who was killed in a tragic and bizarre accident just before Le Mans. The bridge to Gantry guys and anyone who's ever done any training on the Nürburgring will know Big Bren as the larger than life character that he was, and magnificent on a motorcycle. If you don't know about him, Google him. Really great guy, and sadly lost to a bizarre accident at Kesselchen just before Le Mans. So our thoughts with his friends and family, of which I should say in the friends category there are legion, because he helped a lot of people round there. Back to the event. Two-thirds of the SP9 GT3 cars are in this new Pro-Am category, including the pole sitter. TCR seems to be on the up, while SP3T seems to be on the way back. 9 cars in the TCR category, including this weekend a brand new Opel Astra run by Kissling Motorsport. Now, those are the guys of Opel Manta Foxtail fame. Fred Makovicky leading the points table in the championship. Unlikely to see him again this season. He has 19.69 points. And you're looking at me strangely.
Of course.
He leads Norbert Fischer and Christian Connoth and Daniel Zils, who are V5 drivers, who only have 19.2. Now, you're saying to me, hang on, points. Why are we talking in points? Points and fractions of points make a huge difference, because there is a coefficient for the number of entrants in each class for each race. So a bit like a coefficient in diving for difficulty, you get more points if there's more people in the class. No points for overall positions, by the way.
Got a very complex matrix system here.
That has just scared me that you even A, knew about that, and B, have it on your computer in front of you. However, quite a lot of the people at the sharp end of the field, particularly in the who've been running in, like Fred Mackwell running in the GT3 class SP8, SP9, excuse me, then we won't see those. Those guys were there at the early part of the season to hone themselves and the cars for the 24 hours. That now behind us, the VLN goes back to being the VLN, a series of 4-hour races.
Yeah. And just to give you an example of the differing amount of points you might get for a class win that contains one car, you get 5 points, i.e. you're the only one in the class and you manage to get home, so you get 5 points for that. If you're in a class of 25 cars, a class win in that will give you 9.8 points. And then if you're 25th in a 25
Stop now.
car class, then that's 0.2 of a point.
Stop now.
0.2 of a point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously they're all calculated for us, thankfully. To look after that anymore.
Okay, so I can put my slide rule away. Excellent. Keep an eye out for the BMW Mini number 388, one of 2 cars in the SP2T class. It has a young man, and I use that word advisably, Fabian Peitzmeier, who is just 19. I reckon he's the youngest driver on the grid, mechanical engineering student, and part of the Formula Student electric Formula student team from UAS Bonn-Rheinzig. 8th in the world ranking, those guys. One of the development and competition drivers and a race engineer responsible for suspension development. His first 24-hour race on the ring was relatively successful, did most of the night and didn't set a foot wrong. Fast but smooth is what I'm hearing. And he's worth keeping a lookout for. Not a pro driver by any stretch of the imagination, but a young man perhaps following in the footsteps of someone like Mark Leib, who we mentioned earlier on, engineer driver in the old-fashioned style, Johnny.
Yeah, and what a great example to follow, you know, of thinking about people that have taken the rise up through motorsport and relatively rapidly. Then Mark Leib is certainly one of those guys, raced GTs for a number of years and then into the major Porsche 919 hybrid car as well. So certainly a guy to emulate if at all possible. And at 19 years old, there's still plenty of your career, your racing career, out in front of you. Kissling Motorsport, as John mentioned, are here with a Opel Astra in TCR. That means we've got no Manta, I'm afraid. That did appear in a couple of the VLN races earlier on in the year. Randy Walls is down to start the Manthey Racing 59 pole position car. Randy Walls, not his real name, it's in speech marks, if you like, or in inverted commas. Steve Smith, likewise, is an acronym, but Sven Muller definitely is his real name, and I can only think that it was Sven that did the time to put that 59 Manthey Racing Porsche on pole position, alongside the number 22 Wochenspiegel Ferrari of George Weiss, Oliver Kainz and Joachim Krumbach.
Yeah, decent selection of cars, and very difficult to pick this one. The nice thing about having the big, well, there's no works teams really, except there are. Manthey back, just going through some of the guys at the sharp end of the field. As I said, we've got 6 Pro-Ams in the 9 VLN specials, the SP9 class, including the number 12 Manthey racing car, the Wochenspiegel team Monschau 22, the 30 Frickadelli racing team with Sabine Schmitz, Klaus Abel and Andreas Ziegler. 2 cars for them. Klaus Bachler and Alexander Müller in the 31 car. Car Collection Motorsport, the 34 car. That's got Peter Schmidt and Johannes Ziegler, Klaus Koch in that as well. That's a Pro-Am car. Landgraf Motorsport, the 44. Now, don't get... all the numbers have changed, which sort of threw us out a little bit, because 44 would have been one of the Falcon cars in the 24 hours, but this is Landgraf in their AMG GT3. That's a Pro-Am car, and that Manthey Racing on pole, as Johnny mentioned, with Steve Smith, Randy Walls and Sven Muller. But watch out as well, I think, for the RS01, the 55 in SPX. This is the Heiko Hammel and Dieter Schmidtmann, another nom du cause, to mix my languages. Quick car. Running in SPX as it doesn't really fit anywhere else, and we've got again the same situation in SPS with Manthey running one of their GT4 Club Sports for Christoph Breuer and Moritz Oberheim, because they don't want to race against their customers. VLN Special 7, just the one entrant there for Black Falcon Team TMD Friction with their Porsche 911 Cup car. I tell a lie, excuse me, going on to another page. Gigaspeed 62 in there with another Porsche 911 GT. That's one of the GT Americas. Only 20 of those cars built originally for Grand Am racing, and a specific homologation for that. The Clickverse DE team in there, Rent to Drive Familia Racing, Christian Menzel in the 77 car. 79 is another GT3 Cup car, and the 88 another Montai Racing car. Again, far more non-pro drivers we're seeing in the driving lineup. SP8 is the VLN Specials over 4 litres, and this is the car that won SP8 in the 24-hour race, I believe. This is the Aston Martin Vantage GT8. Dr. Alexander Kolb, Alexander Vincent Kolb and Wolfgang Schobeyer. Wolfgang is one of the test drivers at the Aston Martin Test Centre, which is located just off Gottlieb Daimler Centre within a wheel nut's throw of the Dr. Gehor. And they've got some decent competition in SP8, including a couple of Lexus ISFs, a Ferrari 458 for the NGK Sparkplug Racing team, which got Mike Yeager, Stefan Kohler and Christian Kohlhaas at the wheel, and a venerable BMW M3 GTR, as well as a GT3 Cup machine with Andreas Welland, Sebastian Glazer and Berk Flossbach at the wheel. I think that's going to be an interesting one to watch too.
Yeah, so that's the VLN Specials 8 category, effectively between 4 litre and 6.25 litres, but they're by no means GT3 spec cars.
No.
They're trimmed down up there. I mean, you know a little bit more about the Aston Martin Vantage GT8, but it's not got the driver aids on it. It's slightly less powerful than the standard GT3 Vantage, but therefore all that more challenging to get around the Nordschleife when you don't have traction control and you don't have ABS on there. So it's going to be interesting to see whether that Aston can perform as well as it did during the 24 hours at the end of May. There's one Calibra, which is working its way now down the pit lane.
Oh, right.
So that's not the place that we want it, but at least there is one Vauxhall Calibra on the
Graham Goodwin will be happy.
Or should I say Opel Calibra, as this race is taking place in Germany. Yes, indeed.
It's the TJR Opel Calibra for MSA Adenau, the 621 car. Tobias Young and Daniel Jenishin driving that car. A lot of teams with just a couple of drivers here. As ever, we won't get full driver information on the timing and scoring. Head across to the website, which is vln.de/en for all of the updates and live timing and scoring there as well. Last year, 28 laps completed in just over the 4 hours, and the BMW M6 GT3 was the winner, which was Jesse Krohn, Marco Wittmann and one of the Mullers. Now the Muller with the umlaut is it's Dirk, I think.
Okay, I'll bow to your superior umlaut knowledge on that.
Somebody will tweet in at RSL_studio for that then, Johnny. Difficult one to call this. What do you reckon? I mean, obviously the Sven Muller in the pole sitting car, very quick indeed, but it's going to be about the lesser known drivers, I feel, even at the sharp end of the field.
Well, yeah, the 59 is a Pro-Am car, and therefore the Pro has qualified it, as you would rightly expect, but Steve Smith and Randy Walls will have to drive a fair chunk of the race themselves. Also, we've got Pro-Am cars represented by Landgraf Motorsport, by Car Collection Motorsport, and Klaus Koch, Johannes Siegler and Peter Schmidt, also regulars in the 24hourseries.com, the Creventic promoted series. We see regularly Audis sported by Car Collection Motorsport in that category as well. Fricadelli Racing here with one Pro-Am and one standard entry of Alex Muller and Klaus Bachler. So they're going to be busy boys, just the two drivers for the 4 hours, and the Wochenspiegel Ferrari as well. That's a really strong car and performed supremely well during the 24 hours on the Nordschleife, because George Weiss, Oliver Kainz and Jochen Krumbach were 3 drivers. We had somebody else, though, as part of the... I'm going to have to look that up now, because I don't think it was any of those 3 drivers that set the pole position time. But you remember the Ferrari was superb towards the end of qualifying during the 24-hour week. And it was Daniel Kylevitz, wasn't it? Daniel Kylevitz that set the pole. Daniel not here this weekend. It's just George, Oliver Kainz and Jochen Krumbach that make the 3-driver lineup in the Wochenspiegel Team Monschau team.
So what number is that? It's the 22,
22,
isn't it?
Yeah.
This is the Ferrari 488 GT3.
I mean, it has qualified well anyway to be on the front row with the 59.
Johnny, we have 2 Ferraris in the field.
Yeah, we do. I know.
I mean, that's unheard of. We have a full house GT3 car, and in the SP8, there's a Ferrari 458 for that NGK Sparkplug racing team. That's the 139, by the way. Keep an eye open for that. A little bit breezy at the Nordschleife, and doesn't draw the same kind of crowd as the early season events, but there was a decent crowd for the pit walk earlier on. Practice and qualifying was done this morning, single day event, very, very popular indeed. And in fact, later on this afternoon, the Nordschleife will be back open for tourist fahren for the tourist laps as soon as everybody's cleared off. And part of the practice and qualifying this morning, teams were allowed to do race taxi laps as well. So that means you could have put a seat in your racing car and took a sponsor or a VIP or one of your family around, and those times still count for your grid positions.
Brilliant. I mean, I love that. I love the concepts that come out of this place. You know,
it's brilliant.
It doesn't seem to adhere to any rules and regulations that apply to any other world motorsport, but that's kind of why it's pulled such a crowd. That's why we love it, because you have to recalibrate the brain when you land here. It's a near enough 16-mile circuit, for goodness sake, and it takes you from village to village to village before you then head on to one of the longest straights surely in world motorsport, the Dottinger Höhe, which then leads you back towards Tiergarten, a double chicane. Track gets very, very narrow at the end of the lap, and then you feed back into the Grand Prix Strecke.
We're live in sound and vision. If you're moving around and you don't want to use up too much bandwidth, radiolemans.com, of course, and the player with our commentary synced up to the pictures. And our thanks again to Vega Technical and the team and their technical centre at the Nürburgring for sorting out all of that. Sun shining down on the grid just beginning to be cleared. The Porsche 911 Carrera safety car, or at least pace car as it will be, with the Stuttgart registration ready to roll out. Grand Prix white car sitting there. Quite a while you couldn't get white 911s. It was a colour that dropped off the palette from the German manufacturer. Now very much a staple. I have to say that the technology coming from Le Mans, and congratulations to everyone at Porsche Motorsport at Weissach for their 19th and 3rd consecutive overall victory in the Le Mans 24 hours last weekend. Another dramatic race, and the technology filtering down from that to street cars. The new 800 volt system that Porsche will be employing in their new breed of supercars, directly lifted from the 919 hybrid, and the Porsche hybrid that we drove around Le Mans in a real world road test that you'll be able to hear after Midweek Motorsport next Wednesday, he said, hopefully, which comes from Watkins Glen International. Midweek Motorsport next week, as we're back on the IMSA trail, and we are back with IMSA Radio for full coverage of that. We'll welcome the full team to Finger Lakes, New York, and looking forward to that immensely. Well, before all that, we get back into the swing after the Le Mans 24 hours with this race on the mighty Nordschleife. Good start essential here, I think. The guys on the front row, just to get the nerves settled. Quite blowy across the effects mics, and the flag's been blown out at a decent angle, Johnny, and that might just affect the crosswinds at various parts of the circuit where not everywhere has the tree cover, of course.
No, it's a really undulating circuit, so on occasion you will come out into a clearing and be walloped possibly by that side wind as well. So that will be something for the teams to recognise. And again, that's where the more experienced drivers will be able to excel around this place, because the wind may well blow once you know the direction. It'll appear slapping the side of the car in all the familiar places. It's just like when the water accumulates as well in all the familiar puddles. 22 Wochenspiegel Ferrari to the right of the picture then, and alongside it, can't actually quite see the 59.
Is it there?
Porsche.
There's the philosophical question.
Indeed.
If you can't see the pole sitter, is he there?
If there are so many people in front of it, then perhaps not. But the Moistpath car from Manthey Racing should be there in a second or two. We've got a number of
22
GT3s
Ferrari, by the way, just as a point of interest,
Yeah.
is white and red. And I say that deliberately. Most Ferraris, you would say, are red with white. This
Yes.
is very much a white car with red highlights on it. So something to keep an eye open for. I wonder who will start that. Oliver Kynes, I would think, will start that car. I suppose it depends. Fast driver in at the start, Johnny, or at the end?
Well, I'd say get him in at the end, but there may be room perhaps to get the fast driver in at the start and the end. We'll have to wait and see. It's a 4-hour race. So the Wochenspiegel livery looks very, very smart indeed on that Ferrari.
Works, yeah, works.
Alongside it is now the principally white Porsche as well, with the yellow and the red trim for Manthey Racing. And we'll wait and see whether it's Otto Close, Mathieu Jaminet or Lars Kern to start that car. I would probably guess that it would be Jaminet, although he'll be held back for a quick stint at the end as well, arguably. I am liking the number of touring car classes, though, further back down the field. I mean, there's an all-Porsche class, well, there's several all-Porsche classes, depending on whether they're 911 or Caymans. There's plenty of the BMW M235i's as part of the
awesome.
Cup 5 division. Yeah, well, there's 20-odd cars, I think, in that.
Yeah, Cup 5, the BMW M235, that was a car that was produced specifically for these type of races. Toyota GT86 has 7 cars in it. That's Cup 4, 500 numbers, 526 to 545. And the BMW's Cup 5, starting with the number 666, that is the number of that beast, has, as you say, 20 cars in it. And I think there was about 35 of them built to start with, maybe a little more than that. It's been a tremendous success. Talked to the BMW Motorsport chaps at the 24 Hours, and Jens Marquardt telling us that that very much is their entry-level car. It's a mildly performance-enhanced road car. The main thing is putting in the safety features, roll cage, etc., taking out some of the trim on the 235i, and it's been tremendously successful. Not just here, for which it was designed specifically. We see quite a lot of them now in some of the 24-hour series races by Creventic, that race either in their own class or, they're getting quite high up the field. This is a decently performing car, and I'm not going to say it's cheap, because nothing in motorsport is, but in terms of value for money, bang for your pound or euro or dollar, it's actually pretty good value.
And all the usual names are in that, including a great gaggle of Pixum Team Adrenaline Motorsport BMWs. That's the team based here and can help to provide you a drive, whether it be in a BMW Racing Cup car or Porsches as well. They had at the 24 Hours. I think there were 9 Pixum Team Adrenaline cars for the 24 Hours.
Team Securtal Zorg Rennsport, one of those teams who race BMWs, and in fact this type of BMW in the 24-hour series, have 2 cars, including one, the 695, driven by Bugs Bunny, apparently. In fact, no, they have 3 cars that I've just spotted there. And Bonk Motorsport, of course, are here, the number 700 car, entered by Bonk. They've also got one of the new Peugeot 306 TCRs in, which looks an absolute picture. It's in white with the black or grey hindquarters, that coupe fresh colour scheme that Peugeot Sport are pushing very hard indeed. And watch out amongst the phalanx of VAG product, Golfs and RS 3s, for a Kissling Motorsport Astra in TCR. The other thing we've got to look out for, and we were hoping to see, and by the way, that has got a Volta stride check behind the wheel. It's the 823 car. We were hoping to see a new class here, talking about single classes, for KTM crossbows.
Yes.
It's been put back to the next race. However, there are, I believe, 2 KTM crossbows here at the circuit. Now, whether they are taking part in the race, I haven't seen them on the entry list that I've got.
No, they're not.
But I think they're on display for potential partners to have a look at.
Yep.
And basically give themselves have a look over them and assimilate all the information required.
1 minute board's been shown to the drivers, by the way, and we're now beyond the 30-second board, I reckon. So there is a yellow flag now being displayed from the Porsche, I think being held by its passenger. And this is therefore the driver's under-starter's orders prior to, well, we're aiming for a midday start in Germany. And we're at 18 minutes to the hour now, so the cars start to roll off. And this again reminds us quite how long this track is when you're going at procession speeds, green flag speeds. It's going to take them a good 15 minutes to get to the end of this lap. When a quick time, well, nobody could get below the 8-minute marker during qualifying. Although, having said that, did you say one car managed to break the 8-minute marker?
Yeah, just the pole sitter.
Just the 59.
It was a 57 that it
57.
did. Yeah.
On the shorter track, of course, compared to the one that the qualifying race was held on and the 24 hours itself. Now, there is no right and left Castrol S for this one, so we're using the configuration of the Grand Prix track that you may well know from watching Formula 1 races here. So down towards turn 1, which is a sharp right-hander, and then it feeds you effectively round what is a bit of tarmac that's often used for the paddock, the support paddock, when there are other race meetings on here. So they go down through that section, the full Mercedes arena, and then a short blast to what is a fast right-hand hairpin. That's the section of track that's used for the truck meeting as well. So it kind of slices off the next left-right, which is really downhill, and all the camera angles flatten that out down the hill towards the hairpin at the bottom. We don't use that bit, instead we turn right, and then that feeds you back into probably about 2/3 of the way around the Grand Prix track and into the Michael Schumacher S, and then the final chicane, of which I think we're using the slightly faster configuration rather than the hard stop and the 90-degree left, 90-degree right. It's the much quicker chicane, the Vidal chicane as it's called, towards the end of the Grand Prix track. Then they turn left onto the Hatson back, and frankly, boys, from that point you're on your own.
Hearing from at Downforce 9, and thanks for this to Studio underscore RSL, excuse me, underscore Studio on Twitter. Daniel Calvert's involved in a training accident on a bicycle. Dangerous things, bicycles, I always think. Hello to Oz, right turn lover, and the rest. Oz freak saying, I sometimes think, I think my neighbours must think that the RSL studio crew live in my apartment because they're always talking from here. Good to know that you're tuned in around the world, and whatever time of day or night it is, get ready for 4 hours. And we've learned anything this year with our exclusive new coverage of the VLN. It is, Johnny, to expect the unexpected and not to disappear before the checkered flag has actually come out.
No, because it does take a while for these races to fully unwind. Now we've had, just checking that the cars in the lead group have now gone onto the Hatson back. I believe they have, so this will be Group 2.
Correct.
Coming through with a separate pace car at the front of the field. This is a whole load of Porsches together with Audi TTs as well.
Yeah, V5s in there, some of the V5 runners, a lot of Caymans, as well as some of the Cup cars. Just a reminder, if this is your first time coming to us, maybe after you were tuned in at Le Mans, this is a championship that is purely run on the Nürburgring Nordschleife with a bit of the Grand Prix circuit as well. 4-hour races, the 24-hour race, not a part of this. That is a standalone. We've had that already. So this is the third round of the VLN 2017 season, and what we're looking at here is a tactical choice for the guys at the sharp end of the field in the SP9 GT3 effectively category. They can't do this on a full run every time. There has to be a little short stint somewhere. We'd expect to see those cars doing 8 laps around the Nordschleife, and it doesn't break up. 27, 28 laps is what we're expecting in the 4 hours. That doesn't, obviously, split up into 8-lap stints. So the first stint, perhaps we will see people coming in maybe after 6, 7 laps, because they'll have done their warm-up lap, albeit at a slow pace. They do go around the Nordschleife, and then after that, see if they're split up into 8-lap stints and a dash, or are they going to average it out and do, well, 4 7s is 28. Even I can work that out with my limited arithmetical talent. So would you dare do it in 4 7 stints and track position by being in the pit lane a little bit shorter time on the fuel fill?
It is a delicate balance, isn't it? And I mean, nothing about this race can be assumed, and you can follow patterns from previous races, but almost certainly if you start to do that, then this race, today's race, will take a very different direction. We have another group of cars about to be released now as well. So this is Group 3. Not expecting any more than 3 groups, but now these are the BMW M235s. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's 20 odd of them at the head of the field, and then behind them probably more of the touring car spec groups as well. But I remember at the 24 hours, it was the third group that was led by this fight for Cup 5. There is only one Audi TTRS, by the way, so that's going to be easy to identify. That's
Thomas Jaeger driving one of these cars. There's some big names.
Not that Thomas Jaeger, though, as I was put right.
He's the Austrian Thomas Jaeger, not the German one.
Correct.
I was wondering if you'd pick that up. But great opportunity for people to get some Nürburgring experience, and indeed Rory Butcher, British touring car driver, is in the number 681 Volkenhorst Motorsport car, our IHG Rewards Club Podium Predictor, opening up shortly for the next British touring car event, which is at Snetterton, and your Beat the Pundit will be me, so watch out for a video coming soon, and we'll be talking about that on Midweek Motorsport Live at 8 o'clock UK time on Wednesday, and that show coming in part at least live from Watkins Glen International and our commentary booth overlooking the start-finish line. We've got an elevated position there, which is absolutely perfect for seeing quite a bit of that historic track. That's Wednesday, and further ahead for British touring cars and the www.podiumpredictor.com for British touring cars. Some great prizes up for grabs there. But we are focusing in now on the engines of these 235i's as they head off around the Grand Prix track and head through the Schumacher S. I'm quite excited by this, Johnny, because this, you know, we've just come back from Le Mans and barely had time to take breath, but this is a very different rhythm of race because Le Mans is very long, 24 hours and 8.5 miles, but what we've got here is something that takes us a step further and has a very different character.
It's a much longer track, but it's a much shorter race, and I still think there's a sprint element to this, because many of these drivers will take part in the longer distance run around the Nordschleife at the end of May. So compare that to twice around the clock, and 4 hours is a very short event indeed, particularly if you're trying to cycle through 3 or in some cases 4 drivers.
And hello to Matt Campbell, starting second in P5, in V5, in the V5 category. Matt, part of the collective, and doing He was spectating as a fanboy, he says on his Twitter account, at Le Mans last weekend, and now starting in second position in V5, which is the VLN production class. This is things like Porsche Cayman, BMW, Z4s. Now, interestingly, I haven't got him on my list, so we need to check out and find out what car number he is driving in. Seb Morris at the Nürburgring this weekend as well, and
yeah, in the number 681.
Oh, so he's sharing.
Horse Motorsport BMW. That is a 235i Racing Cup car.
Yeah, so he's sharing then with Rory Butcher.
With Rory,
yeah,
and with Richard Mills, yeah. So the three
British
Seb Morris, pilot,
yeah.
M235i car. That's number 681 in the Vulcan Horse Motorsport livery. And car number 1
Gigaspeed
is the Gigaspeed car.
Now that's a bit off-putting because that's a GT3 Cup car, although it's got a very low number. It's one of the cars from Gigaspeed that has the driver monitor as well as car monitors in.
So part of Cup 2.
Correct.
And it's Alex Mees. Now, I'm not sure whether Alex is perhaps brother of Christopher Mees, or whether Mees is a slightly more popular name in Germany than I'd expected. But Tim Scheerbarth is the second driver in that car, and Steve Jans, the man from Luxembourg, in the Cup 2 car. That's a class with 7 Porsche Carrera Cup cars in it.
Alex Mees is a TCR International Series driver, born in Düsseldorf, 25 years old.
Okay.
And I'm not sure that he is, actually. I have to say, I was told that that was a relation, but I'm not sure it is now.
Well, Chris Mees was born in
Velbert.
Heilingen House. So possibly not.
No.
Somebody will know the answer.
I don't think it is.
Somebody
I don't think
will know
they
the
are.
answer, so get in touch if you do.
Studio at RSL_studio.
Bonk Motorsport Peugeot 308, that's the car we were mentioning a little while ago. And Bonk here with, well, a number of TCR cars, not only that Peugeot in a very Peugeot numbered 308 machine, but we also have a couple of the Audi RS3s from Bonk Motorsport as well. The Audi RS3 LMS, which debuted, well, for the first time in all World Motorsport, I believe, at the Dubai 24-hour weekend when it did a couple of Middle East TCR races. James Kay was doing the driving on that occasion, while 2 Bonk Motorsport KG Audi RS3 LMSs in this entry, and there may be other RS3s as well to look out for. Yes, 4 in total, one of which is in the Gruppe H2 division, which contains 4 cars. I beg your pardon, that's a Renault Clio RS3, that's why. And there are 3 Audi RS3 LMS cars in the TCR division, the other one being sported by LMS Engineering. Matthias Varsel, Marcus Lohnert and Artur Goryan, the Russian, in car number 803. Now, spectators on the Grand Prix track having to be very, very patient here because they're not seeing any cars. They're instead circulating down towards Adenauer Bridge and beyond, then up towards the carousel. Cars have already reached that point on the circuit, up towards Hoher Acht, and then on towards Brunchen, Schwalbenschwanz, and then eventually the Dottinger Höhe.
Just a reminder, if you're listening to our audio via the audio player on radiolemans.com, we do have sound and vision on a player. If you go to the front page of radiolemans.com and click the VLN picture, the VLN story box, that will take you to our VLN page, and the sound and vision linked seamlessly together there and synchronized by our technical partners Vega at the circuit this weekend again. So good to have their technical knowledge, and thanks to Tim Gray, our executive producer in London, for making sure that we're speaking to the world and having vision going to the world at the same time. 802 Golf GTI TCR from Matilda Racing. Their driver knows he's on camera and gives a little wave to the crowd. Oh, in the pits late now. This is significant, Johnny. This is one of the Fricadelli cars. This is the Pro-Am car, the Klaus Abelin car, and the number 30 is in the pit lane on the start-finish line. And in fact, it's going to start from the pit lane. This is the car that Klaus Abelin, Sabine Schmitz is involved in, the red and white car. And looks like that's going to be starting from the pit lane. Now, what I don't know is, having not done the warm-up lap, does that get a penalty? Will it have to start right behind everyone else? What it has got is the advantage of not having done the warm-up lap in terms of its fuel.
True, that's a very good point. So the car will be running heavier than other cars up alongside it, but of course it could go a bit further on. I'm not sure whether that car number 30 did the Grand Prix track and then the driver decided there was a problem.
Yes. I think so, or it's only just come out of the pits.
That's the other
the pit garage.
Yeah.
And by the way, we were right in the first place. I took to the internet to find out about Alex Mees, and I put myself off. He is Chris's brother, 25-year-old brother of Chris Mees. It didn't say that on his driver page, so that's what put me off. But I knew that I'd been told in the past by Johannes Guaglica that was the case, and Johannes has reinforced that fact by sending a tweet to RSL_studio. Thank you, Johannes, and our favourite Austrian tuned in again this weekend, and thank you for all your help with your talking points, Johannes. Invaluable as ever. Hope this is going to be a cure for your post-Le Mans 24-hour blues. Many of you went to see the 3D movie here in the UK on Wednesday and got a pretty good write-up from everyone who went there. Anything else or something else that you could possibly do this weekend is either download or go and buy Steve McQueen, The Man in the Movie. We had a family night in on Wednesday night. Hindhoff Senior came round, and with a little bit of French cuisine that we picked up on the drive back, sat and watched that. And the documentary about the Le Mans 24 Hours and Steve McQueen in general, absolutely outstanding. Highly, highly recommended. I've still got to watch the extras on the DVD, which is a lot of extra interviews. Lots of footage that you will not have seen before, even if, like me, you are a Le Mans movie buff. You'll be sitting there going, ooh, that wasn't in the movie. Ooh, that shot wasn't in the movie. Ooh, that wasn't in the movie. It's very good indeed, and accurately, I think, portrays the obsession of Steve McQueen with that race. It's Steve McQueen, The Man and the Movie, available to download now in the UK as well as to buy, and check your local stockists for that. Highly recommended for endurance racing enthusiasts and McQueen enthusiasts as well. An insight, a warts and all insight into the psyche of, at the time, the world's biggest movie star. And if you're an enthusiastic motorsport and endurance motorsport fan now, it's time to get excited as the Porsche Carrera is about to pull into the pits. In fact, that is a Porsche Turbo that is about to pull into the pits. And Johnny Palmer, are you ready for this?
I think I am. I mean, the fabulous sight these cars make as they work their way into Tiergarten at the end of a very, very long, almost 18 minutes green flag lap. And of course, batches 2 and 3 are still somewhere out on the Nordschleife. They'll be coming through at 2-minute intervals, but the pace car is about to retire, peel off to the pit lane, and that will leave the 59 car, which is well ahead of the Ferrari here, almost in a row for itself. It has kind of got a bit of a jump start on the Ferrari as they're under started orders now and get the go-ahead, but it is an untidy start. Difficult to get the cars two abreast through Tiergarten because it's so narrow there, but no doubt about it, the Pro-Am car number 59 has got a jump start there on the Ferrari. Not saying it is a jump start, but a head start rather, alongside the Ferrari, although the Ferrari coming fighting back now at the inside of the first corner and into Mercedes arena. It is the 59 Montai car that has the inside line. There was the other Fricadelli car, number 31, which is not the Pro-Am car, but the Renault RS01 up to third position now. So 59 leading 22, leading the 55 SPX car. That's the Renault RS01. Well out wide as they leave the Mercedes arena for the first time, John.
Yeah, the number 30 car is the one, the 31 car is the one on the move at the moment. The Frickadelli Racing Team car, flashing of the headlights as they go into that open hairpin and heading up now towards the Schumacher S's. Good start by the 59 Monti Racing car. Getting away, a little bit of dust being thrown up further back down the field. But there was a concerted effort down at the first corner. Difficult braking area there as you come in from the right-hand side. The road, left-hand side, the road tightens on you and makes your braking downhill just a little bit difficult. They are using the hook, the Grand Prix circuit, the harder right rather than the cut through. And that means that you have to really slow the car down, and they're heading out onto the Hatzenbach for the first time. Pole sitter in the lead.
Volkenhorst BMW Z4 number 36 going for a bit of a move up the inside as they turned left at the Hatzenbach, and also TCR cars almost overlapping into that portion as well. So easy to have an accident on the first lap into Hatzenbach. We saw it a couple of times during the Nürburgring 24-hour weekend, as the second batch of cars is about to reach the end then of their green flag lap and about to get rocking and rolling. I remember the green and yellow Porsche having an early spin in VLN 1 back in March, so hopefully it's going to be a cleaner start for some of these Porsche Caymans. The TCR class is there as well, Seats, Opel Astras, little Renault Clios as well. Almost run Rocky Brong in this group, isn't it? There seems to be
There's
no
the Mini.
reason. Yeah,
there's the Mini going through. There's just the one. That's the one with the youngest driver in the field. That's the 388 with Fabian Peltzmeier behind the wheel.
I spotted a Peugeot RCZ there as well. Yes, there is.
Yes,
one of those, a 385, number 385, and again a little bit of overlapping further back, but it's a good start from the pole position car. The red and black Porsche spreading out. This is more like it. 5 abreast as they head over the start and finish line. A part of the track you can certainly do that there. And the Audi TT RS rather losing a bit of ground as those cars then tumble their way down towards the first corner. Important to get, well, roughly a racing line through there. The red and black Porsche has got through cleanly. Everybody else, some of them having to give way. Opel Astra right on the apex there, nearly having its nose removed as more cars take to the racing line and cut right across the Opel Astra. But it's a tremendous start. This is where we had contact in the Mercedes arena in March. There very nearly is one as one of the Cayman slices its way through.
It's all Caymans in there. The TT, as you said, getting a bit swamped and pushed back down. They're looking remarkably standard, that TT RS. The responsible adult had a car that, all right, didn't have the high rear wing, quite as high a rear wing on it, but pretty much in white with the black rims. Looked pretty similar to that before she traded out to Boxster.
So that is the 323 car of Moritz Österreich and Thomas Schmidt and Markus Österreich. The two from Petersburg and Thomas Schmidt based in Village. As this long line of a second group of cars then have got into some semblance of single file. It's taken them up half a lap at the Grand Prix circuit, but important to be in certainly at least single file when they head on to the Nordschleife for the first time. BMW just jinking out a line to gain a bit of ground early on, didn't manage it though.
I think what's going through people's minds here, Johnny, is that you can have a little bit of a dice on the Grand Prix circuit early on. If you make a mistake, it's unlikely on this first lap to cost you the race. But if you can make up 3, 4, 5, 10 places, which is not unheard of, particularly if you've been and had a not great qualifying session, do that before you get onto the Hatzenbach, before you get onto the Nordschleife, because at that point overtaking is getting very much harder.
And count them, 20 BMW M235i's about to be unleashed onto the Nordschleife asphalt there, and it's pretty much a one-make class. Although look further back and we have Renault Clios and smaller BMWs represented. There's one of the Pixum Team Adrenaline cars. Easy to pick those out on the live stream in their orange and light blue colours. But who's going to get the best of the starts then in this experienced class?
Can I just say, Juha Hannanen is driving the 669 car. I can only imagine that that is the rally driver, Juha Hannanen. I can't imagine there's two.
No. I wouldn't have thought so. Well, here we go. This is going to be entertaining stuff as well from the BMWs. Already a great start then from the blue and black car, which started on the third row, and that's going for second. I don't think it's going to quite manage it into the first corner. Way out wide goes one of them, and across the grass, across the curb to rejoin, and that means that the car out front has been gifted something like a 6 or 7 car length lead. But it has been a good start from the blue, black and yellow M235i. Number 4, which is treble 4, so that didn't qualify so well, but has had a tremendous getaway, and that is one of the Pixum Team Adrenaline cars, by the way. It's not the treble 4 because that's a Porsche, so I've misread that. Anyway, third place fight then going through the hairpin as the top 2 stretch their legs in Cup 5 down towards the Michael Schumacher S and Vidal chicane as well. About to beckon these BMWs in. There's a chance of a bit of an accident at the chicane, but at least we're not using the very tight configuration of that this weekend. More overlapping further back in the pack in the BMW 235i's. Can't see any drama further back though in the non-Beamer classes. And it's been a good getaway then from the pole car in this class. 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th positions are right together as the rest of those 235i's head through the first sequence of corners. And the treble 6 car fighting around for. Yes, it is. It's the Team Scheidt Honda Motorsport of Thomas Jaeger and Rudy Adams that's got away from the line really well. Started on the 2nd row, well, clearly up to 2nd position now, and trying to hunt down the class leader. Out of the second part of the hats and back, swooping downhill and into a really nice sequence of corners as the track snakes from left to right to left and then on towards Flugplatz. But already the leaders are nearing the end of their first lap, so heading down the Dottinger Höhe, and the 59 Montai Racing Porsche leading the way from the Wochenspiegel Ferrari, and then it is the Renault RS01, but the top 3, no doubt about it, are starting to stretch their legs on the rest of the field, John.
This from Mel Hawkins to RSL_studio. Am I dreaming? Can't believe this amount of cars in one race. Only 145 took the start. That's down. In 2007, first year that we did the 24 hours, there was 229 in that race, although now that has been capped at 180, and I think we had 156 or 157 start the 24-hour race, and I think we were over 160 for both of the early VLN races this year. A lot of the big teams, the works teams, have done their practice for the 24 hours, and we won't see those again. So no Glickenhaus, sadly, here, no SCGs, those cars not here. We won't see WRT and the Audi works team and some of the more works supported or works blessed Audis and BMWs and indeed Porsches, but still plenty of action to race on. And TCR, a coming class, so keep an eye on the number 800 classes, because this is a class I think that will be something we'll be talking about in all forms of motorsport, including endurance motorsport, in the coming years. Lots of cars, lots of manufacturers interested, and a very big announcement coming in the next 6 weeks to 2 months, I believe, about 2 American manufacturers who are about to announce their TCR projects, which will underpin a TCR North American series, which will be administered by IMSA, and also will bolster the TCR class in Continental Tire sports car racing from next year onwards, making that for at least one season a 3-class event, with the current GS and ST joined by TCR.
The Honda Racing Team Schmidt and FEV Racing Seat having a tremendous battle. So this is Honda versus Seat, car 818 and 820. Can't tell you who's on the wheel of these cars, but we've only a choice of 2 for each. So it's either Roland Schmidt or Roger Vogeli in the Honda, and in the Seat Sport Leon TCR, it'll either be Benedict Getgen or Arndt Holmans in the Honda and Seat battle, but this is an all TCR scrap. We've also got two Hondas in this race. One is in the TCR class, the other one being in a separate division, which I will find in a moment for you.
Change in the front of the field, Johnny, by the way. A second and a half between the 59 pole sitting Porsche, the Ferrari 488 GT3, the Wochenspiegel car in second, and then about 4 seconds further back now, the 55 Renault RS01, within relatively clear air at the moment, because then there's a big gap back to the 12 Porsche in 4th position, and then it's the first of the Audis in 5th, and that is the number 28 Land Motorsport car.
Lots of dust being kicked up in the face of the 802, looking for a car off, but can't see one as the...
I think it was the Honda ahead, just taking a bit. Very, very dry here at the Nordschleife, as it has been in most of Europe, heading up towards the Flugplatz now, and to turn right and head up the hill. The double apex right-hand, a bit of a lift from the Audi in the 802, but makes it one corner with 2 apeces. Very smoothly driven in that front-wheel drive car. These cars, 330 horsepower or thereabouts.